Hey there, everybody. This is Mr. Burt. We're going to go ahead and continue our ELA lessons on signposts a little bit differently through the next two mini lessons. We finished the first three signposts, character contrasts, the aha moment, and tough questions. Now we're going to work our way into words of the wiser and the again and again moment today. So let's go ahead and get to it. Go ahead and take some time to pause the video if necessary to log on to Google Classroom. And let's get to your classwork page. Whenever you get there, let's scroll down to lessons. Notice that I have everything for Unit 1 fiction that we've been working on, all the material. I've reposted it now in order. So if you notice, the respond to reading the text connections review slides should be right here. These will also now be including all of your examples from the signposts. We're actually going to be working in slideshow number 2 today about the signposts, so go ahead and click that open. But if we go back for a moment, and if you notice, I have all of the text, short stories, and excerpts that you will need to complete all of the exit tickets in the black slides at the end of each set of lessons. So here are the texts available to you in PDF form on your computer at home. So if you need to, today we're going to be working with Writing Freedom and Hatchet, if you want to go ahead and pause and pull those up now. In the meantime, let's go ahead and go back to our slideshow. It looks like this. Since we've done the first few, we're just going to come over here and scroll down a little ways. We're going to make our way to signpost number 4. There we go, Words of the Wiser. So if you got your ELA binder or for just some extra sets of paper, go ahead and make a subtitle for signposts. Words of the Wiser. And remember, the three main components you need to have in here. Number 1, you need to have a definition of what the signpost is. Number 2, make sure you have the anchor question written down somewhere, maybe put in like a speech bubble or something, because we know that that anchor question is what leads us to those critical thinking answers that we want in our reader responses. And number 3 part, you want to have an example. So any examples that you can write down from the videos that are inserted in your slideshows, or any of the examples that you can write down, you can actually copy any of my examples I give to you. There are plenty in here. So that being said, let's go ahead and get to it. Alright, so Words of the Wiser. So when I was younger, I was getting advice from everybody. Moms, parents, teachers, even a friendly neighbor, just anybody who seemed to be older and wanted to impart wisdom on my inexperienced and silly, dumb ways. But we hear things like we see here in the stars. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. You don't have to be friends, but at least be friendly. Third one's mostly just fun, but you can read that on your own. So basically what we're talking about, make sure we go into present mode, I forgot to say that once we're in there. Basically what we're talking about is whenever somebody in a teacher-like position, like a grandparent, a teacher, a parent, an older brother, sister, a friend, a kind neighbor, an employer, some sort of mentor imparts wisdom or advice in their stories or in their communications to the main character, we want to make sure we're looking out for those scenes. Okay, it's usually when the main character has a serious talk with the wiser character. So if you're familiar with Star Wars, this would have been when Yoda tells Luke Skywalker, "Do or do not. There is no try." Okay, so aside from the silly voice, you kind of get the idea. An older, wiser character gives advice. Here's your anchor question if you haven't got that listed down. I skipped a little bit too quick. So here's your definition. This is part 1 that you're going to need, so you can pause and stay here if you need to. Number 2, here's your anchor question. My second example would have been Dumbledore with Harry Potter. Oftentimes, Dumbledore and Harry have serious conversations about life and things that Harry has to face, and he often has good things to tell him. So we always want to make sure we're taking note of things like when Dumbledore or when Yoda are saying things to the main character. We also need to make sure that we're thinking, how might this affect the main character, and what was the lesson to be learned from this? Oftentimes, this gives us clues about the theme of the story. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to take time to take notes down. I'm moving on. Alright, go ahead and take a second to click on this video link in your slideshow and watch the video of our second Lion King vid. I'll pause and give you a second to do that now. Okay, now that you've had an opportunity to watch the video, there was some wisdom that Rafiki passed on to Simba. Notice we're in this part where right after he hits him on the head. So first of all, I want you to get into the third part of your notes. Write down an example. And then answer this. What was the life lesson that Rafiki gave to Simba? You may write that down or cite it from the movie. If you need to go back and listen, go do so again. And once you have that listed down, how does that advice from Rafiki affect Simba? What does he end up doing particular to Rafiki's advice? And if you had something along the lines that Rafiki imparted wisdom by saying, yes, the past can hurt, but the way I see it, you can either run from it or you can learn from it. And after this, we see Simba takes the stick, throws it away just for fun mostly, and then runs off back home to face his past. If your answer sounded something similar to my answer there, you were right on the money. Let's go ahead and move on. Here you'll need to pull up your section and your excerpt on Words of the Wiser. Here is the background on your text. Go ahead and take a moment to read the background of section 1 and pause the video if you need to. What we're going to be thinking about is what advice does Vern give to Charlotte? What is the life lesson here? How can we put it in our own words? And how might this affect Charlotte's thinking or behavior? What you should have noticed is this line in orange that just appeared. You got to do what your heart tells you. And if you picked up on those as Words of the Wiser, you're right on the money. Let's go to the next page. Here I'm just going to go ahead and give you my example reader response answer. And if you notice the 3 questions up here were part of the exit ticket, notice how the arrows separate the response. And also one more note. My paragraph response is numbered 1, 2, 3, but in a normal response we would not have those numbers in here. I just simply wanted to show you where I answered each part of the question as we go. So go ahead and take a moment to pause this video and read it to yourself. Now, notice here, in number 1, I did not just copy and paste my text detail here in orange. I didn't just say, you gotta do what your heart tells you, and expect the teacher knew what I was talking about. I gave the teacher a little bit of an intro. After sharing with Vern her frustration, Charlotte receives some advice. Now, although I did not say she got Words of the Wiser, I do mention that she received some advice, and that should be a clue enough for me to recognize that you are recognizing the signpost. Okay. Then I cite my text detail that shows the Words of the Wiser here in orange. In section 2, I try to take what those words are and put them into my own words, saying, I think that Vern is actually suggesting that Charlotte needs to decide what she really wants and actually go after it. Now, although this sounds repetitious and maybe exactly what we read in here, it's not. You cannot assume that I know what the line means. I would like you to articulate your interpretation of what you recognized when you read. So go ahead and take some time to make sure you do that. Number 3, or part 3, is actually the most important. This is where I'm answering the anchor question. How does this affect the character's thinking or behavior? And you can read my conclusion and inferences there on your own. So go ahead and pause and do some now. Please note the green box second as well. Moving on to section 2. Section 2, Charlotte follows Vern's advice, and she leaves the orphanage. She meets another older gentleman, his name is Ebenezer. You'll meet his name later. He lets her live in his barn and work with him on learning how to drive a 6-horse stagecoach. If you know the Wells Fargo emblem or what the Budweiser Clydesdales happen to pull along, that's kind of what we're talking about. Go ahead and take some time to pause and read section 2. Again, we were looking for what advice did Charlotte receive? What's our interpretation of the life lesson here, and how does it affect her thinking and behavior? If you found the line that says, every time you fall, you learn something new about your horse, you learn what not to do next time. Again, you're on the money. Let's go ahead and check out my response. Again, I lead the reader in with a little bit of a introduction here about what happened in the story, a little 1-sentence summary. And then I also have a transition statement here that introduces my citation. He told her And then I go ahead and cite my line here in orange. Now, I could have paraphrased this, but I thought it was a little bit more appropriate to cite it because I don't think I could have said that any better. Now, if you notice, I go ahead and interpret what I think it actually means. This piece of advice from Vern is likely trying to tell Charlotte that she will fail. And like falling off a horse, when she fails, there's something to learn about what not to do next time. Okay. You can go ahead and use either of these last two example responses to pause on, read through, examine, and you can model your answer from mine. Now what I'd like you to do is read section 3 of Writing Freedom, and here's what I want you to think about. Note the lines that show the signpost where the words of the wiser come out. You can either cite or paraphrase. And then think, what was the life lesson here? How can I explain that in my own words? And how might it affect the main character, Charlotte? Here's the backstory. As the story continues, Charlotte has become a good stagecoach driver, but on this day, someone from the orphanage in her unhappy past has come and wants to ride the coach she drives. It upsets her greatly, and Ebenezer notices this. He sees she's upset. Like I said, go ahead and read the last section, section 3. And I want you to, either on an index card or just in an old piece of paper, is fine to turn in later, cite or paraphrase the lines that show the words of the wiser. Remember, give me a little bit of an introduction or a background sentence. Elaborate and interpret what you think the life lesson is. And make sure you answer how you think this will affect Charlotte. We will continue the next signpost in the next video. Good luck. Make sure you turn everything back into meaning when you get back to